I've been currently using the Linux Asahi kernel, and I've been using this on my M1 series Air. It's got 16 gigabytes. It does what I need it to do. It's a nice machine. However, I've been using the Asahi kernel with NixOS. Some nice gentleman called TPW Rules has created a flake that has married the Asahi kernel with NixOS, and it's beautiful. I love it. It's perfect in almost every way. I have a couple of gripes to pick, which involve DP alt mode, also known as the display out, as well as x86 emulation. Both of these are coming a long way. For instance, recently we've been the 6.19 Linux kernel has been released, and we have been blessed by a nice upstream of different development that Asahi has been doing. But one of the nice things that they've been doing has been developing the fairy dust kernel. The fairy dust kernel brings together the drivers and the hard work needed to get the DP alt mode working. And it is working. I've configured NixOS to use the 6.18.10 fairy dust kernel, and it's awesome. I love it. It's actually been changing my it really has changed my life, whether or not you want to believe that. But using a monitor and keyboard with headphones, not having to stare at a 13-inch screen hunched over, is quite comfortable. Now, what are my other gripes with Asahi? Asahi with NixOS? And I honestly, I have to say none. I really don't have any problems. I love the battery performance. Sometimes it can be not as good as the Apple Mac OS, which is fine. They're working on it, but it's pretty good so far. What else do I love? I love everything. It just works. However, this is recently, a while ago, about a month ago, a couple weeks. I switched over to macOS, and I was trying it out. I was trying to see what all the talk was about macOS. I was trying to understand why macOS is so good. I've used it a little bit, not that much. I've tried to rice it, not that much. But this time I gave it a valiant attempt, a better attempt than any attempt that I have previously done. And what I have come to find out is that macOS is pretty awesome. I personally love the fact that almost everything just works out of the box. All right, that's pretty incredible. I also like how when using macOS, everything is pretty smooth. The animations are nice. The everything seems to open up quickly. Browsing is really fast, and it's there. Like, I can use the Mac, and I can use my Mac, and I can just do stuff. Like, I'm not halted by anything. I'm not having these problems. And so, as soon as Asahi released the fairy dust kernel, and as soon as this wonderful gentleman has been working on trying to get the correct MUVM fork and FEX trying to get those two working together to get x86 emulation working on NixOS. It has been a journey, and so far practically everything is working. Like, you can use it, one way you can do x86 emulation is through, you can use QEMU. QEMU works. That's pretty nice. But you can also use the, like I said, MUVM with FEX married together. You can use that. That one also works. Wine works. You can download the x86 Wine, and then you can run it with MUVM, and everything works great out of there. You can run Windows EXEs, some of them, not all of them. In particular, LT Spice, which I've been using for one of my circuits class, it works fine. It works flawless. I have zero complaints. And my main point I'm talking about all this is that macOS is good. macOS, you're gonna get your stuff. You're gonna get stuff done. You're gonna have a good experience. And if you want to if you have a job and you just need something that works on the go, macOS is going to be great for you. However, if you want your machine to be your machine, then you are going to have a terrible time with Mac. All right. Mac, you have a couple tiling managers. You have Yabai, Aerospace, and a bunch of other ones that are not that good anyways, not even worth naming. Yabai, trying to get Yabai working with Nix Darwin, which I was trying to do. I was trying to set up my Mac OS with Nix Darwin and trying to get Yabai. It was kind of troublesome even for like a Nix configuration. It was just putting in more effort than was needed, largely was needed. I mean, I love configuring stuff with Nix, and it was more than the average hassle. So Yabai was not worth it. Aerospace was working. Aerospace worked fine, and I had no problems with getting it to work. But it's just uncomfortable to use, especially when coming from Hyperland, where everything is so smooth, everything is nice, and everything opens. I don't have any problems. I like my waybar. It's all configured. I have no gripes. So using macOS, I found myself really just yearning for my personalized development environment. That's what I really wanted the most, is because even though I can have something that's going to work, and even though I have something that is pleasant to use at times, it's not mine. I didn't set it up. I don't really know where everything is on on macOS, and that's really my fault for not wanting to learn it. But I don't want to learn it, and I'm getting a call right now. We're back. Done with the call. Where was I? All right, yes. Something about macOS and something about how it's good, and I do like it. And I think people who have jobs, right? People who are working real jobs and people who are making money, if they have no time because they're out making money, then they should just use whatever is going to work for them. What's going to work well, and that's going to be Mac OS, right? Unless you've been doing this from the start, right? If you're young, guys, invest in Linux. Not because I think Linux is eventually going to take over the computer world, and I think that everybody's going to be running Linux. I think you should invest in Linux because it's going to set you apart from all the other people who aren't using Linux. You go to a job and you start, you can nerd out on this particular piece of software that other people can kind of relate to. Most people use Linux, right, in the workforce, but obviously if you're some guru, then you're going to be killing it, and people are going to see that, and that's cool. And that's why I think that you should have a PDE. You should have a personalized development environment. You should invest in using this operating system. Invest in its software. Invest in making it your daily driver if you can. Like if you're young, do that. So, main points here. I've been using Asahi Linux. I've had a pretty wonderful experience. I'm going to write up a little blog post about how I got display mode working, and I can also make a video about it. But my point here is to say stuff is working, and I think Asahi Linux is going to be really good in a year. It's going to be M1, M2 is going to be fully developed. They're going to have no problems. They just got 120 hertz working on the MacBook Pros. It's like all the features are coming. They're going to be there. And I know a couple homies. I know a couple brochachos, right? Brochachos. They're using macOS and they love macOS, and they don't have the gall to switch. They don't have the gall. They don't have that fire inside of them that's telling them, hey, I need to switch. I need to actually invest some time. They're comfortable. They want to stay with macOS. It makes them feel comfortable. I don't want my system to break. Well, and if you're gonna make an omelet, you gotta break a few eggs, right? And so, if you're not breaking those eggs, then you're doing nothing. You're gonna get left behind. And I think that if you have an M1 or an M2, you should try out Asahi. You should try it out over the weekend. Just back up. You don't even have to. That's the best part, is that the dual booting is so easy. Setting up Fedora Remix with the Asahi kernel is so easy. It takes like 5 minutes. not counting in downloading the stuff. Once you download everything, you set it up. It's so easy. The installer's so easy. Try it out. Just give it a try. Come back, comment, be like, hey, I tried it out and it was actually working. I had a pleasant experience, because it's pretty incredible with what they're doing. So just don't get too comfortable, right, with macOS, because I tried macOS and I was getting comfortable and it was nice. I liked it. I liked everything working. Rosetta was cool. I enjoyed, opening a software. Everything is just also just built for Mac. I enjoyed having a .dmg and just being able to double click it and it just works first try. That's awesome. I love that. But I don't want to be complacent. I don't want to get stuck in this hole of I like Mac OS and it works for me, but I know there's Asahi, which I have all of my stuff. Like, I have my entire config in it. It's a little bit of a hassle, but that little bit of a hassle's good. And I think that it's going to make me learn more. I'm going to understand what it is to use a kernel. I'm going to understand what it means to. I had never before this had to try and figure out how to choose different kernel versions or different kernel parameters. And now I tried it. Now I know. I'm a little more educated. I'm not nearly as educated as anybody who's committed and push anything to the kernel. But at least I know how to choose my kernel. Now at least I know what I'm doing. A little bit. Just a little bit. So try Asahi Linux out. Give it a try. It really is worth it. It's an incredible operating system. It's going to set you apart from other people because it's a small community, and it is just good to have a personalized development environment. It is good to not be complacent and just try stuff out.